from small town versus, town folks is one thing, and then you had the country folks, the other ones, and you had the farm kids. And farm kids were completely different. They were workaholics. They worked too damn much. Um, Relax, it's only Mountain Dew, okay? But wanted to come in and kind of give you a little bit of difference on how, we were not all just one carbon copy general thing, okay? We all came from different areas. We all liked different types of music, but we all understand that the 80s music was the best damn music in the world, no part, bar none. Y'all don't think it's right. I don't care. Prove to me I'm wrong. Please, try. Okay? Y'all are still listening to this day, and that was, 45 years ago? Rest my case. All right. Having come from the town and having had grandparents who live out in the country, I got a taste of both worlds. All right. So I'm going to bounce this off of here. All right. Town folk kids, when they hit the lights, when they always told come home when the lights are on, street lights are on, that's when you came home. Okay. Your chores were, clean your room, do your homework, and during the winter, during school days, during summertime, you make sure you had to mow the yards. You did odd jobs. You kept busy, and you got a hell out of mom's hair, plain and simple. You had other things to do. I had little jobs to do. I had like a paper route in the morning, but after the rest of the day, I had to do other things to do too. So you had things you had to do in the city or in the town, basically what it was, and you had things you do here. Chores a little bit different. You had a little bit. When I was in the town, I had very little to do as far as chores or things I had to do as compared to when I went to the country and I went to live and stayed with my grandparents for a while. Okay, that is a whole new different area, and then you get on the progression with the farm kids did. That's a whole different area in themselves as well. All right. So in town, not too much to do. Just kind of stay out of the way, do your chores. Real simple thing. Keep your room clean if you could. Stay out of mom's way. That was a must. Take the trash out. Little chores like that. I had a paper route to keep myself busy for a little bit. Things of that nature. Now, I'm getting into what he had to do in the country. Okay, I wanted to go live with my grandparents for a little bit. Stayed with them, didn't say live with them, but I stayed with them for a summer. Okay, didn't have street lights. We didn't have indoor plumbing. We didn't have running water. Okay, we had a well out in the front, outside the house. We had an outhouse. That's where you took crap at. Okay. We had a propane tank, the usual propane tank. That brought heat and that brought gas into the house where you cook the stove, stuff like that. You had a wood burning stove for the wintertime. And that's you were out there in the country. All right, so there's little things you had to deal with. And there's a lot of things you had to do. My grandfather especially, he expected you to do chores while you were there. If you were living there, by God, you were going to work. And that's just the way it was. All right. Typical day. God, when you got up at what? But it felt like the old crack of dawn, ass crack of dawn. Typically 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. All right, you went out and did your chores before breakfast. Read my lips. Before you ate, you had chores to do. Okay, whether it was feeding the chickens or collecting the eggs, whether it was mucking the stalls for the horses, which I usually do that after breakfast or during lunchtime or after lunch. If you lived on a pig farm, you slapped hogs or whatever. You did things like that. There's little things in the morning you did. My mother, when she was on a farm, when she was raised by my grandparents, she had to milk cows, feed chickens, slap hogs, feed the rabbits, goats, whatever else was there. All before she went to school. She went to school or ate breakfast. That was it. You did. That's just the way it is. I got lucky. The biggest thing I had to worry about is feeding the chickens and collecting the eggs. And then I graduated up into that to where, later on I had to take care of the mucking the stalls for the horses. Okay. Then, then that was all before breakfast. After breakfast, you relax a little bit. Then you go out and get a normal day of work. Now, it depended on what time of the year it was, is what your normal day of work was. Now, you didn't just sit around in the country. You just didn't sit around, chilling, do anything, and then just relax. You were working, doing something. You weren't working real hard because the heat would be blistering down upon you, but you were constantly moving. If it was harvest time for a different type of crop that my grandpa had in the garden, you went out and harvested that. My grandpa was notorious for having huge gardens. I swore sometimes they looked like they was about an acre big. Yeah, and they were monstrous. And he believed, he had to have a big one because, he's 5 kids. And then when our grandkids came along, he took it upon himself and figured he'd feed all 13 of us. Like, we really ain't got parents or anything like that, but no, he helped. He knew what it was like. Him and my grandparents both knew what it was like. Life was a little rough at times, so they always had extra. They always made sure that my grandfather always made sure he had extra because he was always used to making so much at one time for 5 kids. So you went and harvested the whatever crop was out in the field that was ready to harvest, whether it was corn or beans, potatoes, blackberries or strawberries. Those were a mistake. Whatever vegetable was on it, lima beans, black-eyed peas, whatever the case may be. If it was ready for harvest, and that's what we went on harvest. We get out there the first part of the day. That way it was cool. When you got out there by the noon, out there splitting the sun, splitting the stones. You're not going out there and get yourself killed. And you always had something like a glass of tea or a glass of water with you. Grandma always had water. She would make sure you had water or tea with you. And the tea had to be so sweet and rot your teeth before he touched you. That's just the way. That's the rule of the house. So that was normal there, right there. Another thing is we'd cutting wood. We had a wood burn. My grandparents had a wood burn stove. You always cut wood year round. You cut wood year round all the time, and you had it seasoned. You had to let it season. He didn't like cutting. He liked burn green wood. It would too much tar and smoke, and the filter would clog up the chimneys. And he said he just seen he's seen too many people get chimney fires and just burn their whole place down. And it would happen every year. It would happen three or four houses. You just wouldn't let the wood dry properly, and then you get all that sap could start getting clogged up in there and cause chimney fires. And next thing you know, the house is quite literally the whole house is up in flames because the heat produced. So that was one of the things. Another summer job, bucking bales. Well, that was a lot of fun. If things were getting slow, my Uncle Pat used to come out there and ask me if I wanted to go buck bales with him. I made the mistake of saying yes one year. It didn't happen again. Trust me, it did not happen again. I also did not make the mistake of not asking what type of hay, what bale we were bucking. Were we bucking grass, straw, hay, or a mixture? All right, because if it was cut green, it could weigh 10 times more than it would if it was cut. It was after like straw. You waited the straw, you waited that stuff to turn brown. Because it was about 30 to 40 pounds less. All right, you cut in clover, that still kind of green and it's still heavy. Those are 100-pound bales, and then some bitches got heavy after a while. Let the big boys play with their own things. Every summer, my mom said that every summer these jobs here would come up. It was the early part of summer. We called it the chicken killing season season. My grandfather would go out and get a bunch of chickens, a bunch of chicks every year, and like 100 or so of them. And once they got full grown, he planned it out where about early summer they come around and we're there about the time they're ready to kill. We go out and we kill chickens, and it was pretty. It was pretty. If you didn't like blood and guts and gore, you didn't want to come around there in that time frame, because we were literally cutting heads off of chickens. Like my grandfather would do. He whipped that head around there real quick and snapped that head right off, and he'd have the head in his hand, and bird would go flying one way, and the head be in his hand, and if you weren't used to it, it'd make your stomach turn a couple of times. But that was every year. Every year, early in the summer, we did that. It was he set it up, and it was pretty military systematic way he did it. He set it up because you got the bird killing area, you got the where you dip the bird in we had a 55-gallon barrel of water. We always had fire in there with boiling water. You dip the bird and the chickens in there, and it was a lot easier to pull the feathers. Once you get the bird hot, the feathers would come off a lot easier. So it was just like, the feathers was just flying off. And there's a lot of, I have friends of mine come out there with me during that time frame, and we tell them, hey, try to pluck that chicken when they're dry. See how far you get. And plump that some in the water for a couple times, for a little bit, and then pull it out then, and then start plucking in. See how much easier it is. Hey, not too bad, is it? So then after you got through plucking, they went through, they got cleaned up pretty good, and then they would go through an area, and they come into the house, and then go through an area, they get cleaned, get even more the pin feathers and stuff like that would be cleaned up, and then they started gutting them and cleaning them up and getting quartering them up, getting them ready for freezing for the deep freezer. And we'd have 60 birds in the freezer every year, easily. So that happened every summer. Let's see what else I got. I got it all written down here, so I don't forget this stuff because I might right over my head. I said gardening, killing chickens, bucking bales, and gardening when it was the right time of the year. Like I mentioned before, my grandfather lived by the Farmer's Almanac. You didn't move a muscle without that damn thing in his hand. He looked at it and said, okay, he read it, he memorized it, and this is when we're going to do it, and bang, we did it. We knock it out. Mostly that was done during the spring. Some of it, depending on what you were growing, was during the winter time, during the summertime, because you get fall, pumpkins and stuff like that stuff. So that was your garden variety of chores that you did when you were in the country. Now, what the farmers did was all that plus what they did out in the field when they were harvesting their crops, and I'm only going to get into that because I have no idea what they did. Now, what we do as Gen X kids in the farm or in the country for fun? Well, there's a few things we do. It depends on if we had a new person out there. If we had some of our friends out there or something like that, had never been out in the country, we'd have a little fun with them. We'd give them the hot wire treatment. We wouldn't let them grab it, but we'd give them a little hot wire treatment and let them get a little tingle off that thing. Let's see. Cow tipping. That was always a lot of fun. Trying to see some kid that was 90 pounds soaking wet trying to tip over a 2,000-pound bull when we're trying to convince him it's not a bull, it's a regular, it's a cow, it's a female, it's a heifer, brother. Right. Made that mistake a few times. Had figured out that you can outrun a bull if you're that scared. And if you find the right tree, you can skinny up that son of a bitch just as fast as a freaking raccoon can when it's your ass on the line and you know there's a horn up there ready to be jammed up. You learn how to run real damn fast. Trust me, been there, done that. It wasn't pretty. Made a mistake once, didn't do it twice. I let other people do it. It was funny to watch them. Let's see, what else did we do for fun? Uh, Firecrackers and the cow pies. Those was fun. We were demented. We were twisted. Um, Hell, I had something on the tip of my tongue. I forgot it. So there was other things we do, twisted things. My grandfather, he'd bring out the horses every once in a while. And you had to brush them down. It was always fun. I always enjoyed messing with the horses. I was, brushing them down, um, saddle them up, getting ready to ride them for a little bit, even if it was just for an hour or so. I'd always try to convince my grandpa and saddle them up, ride them for a little bit, and we'd do it every once in a while. He'd break it down. He'd break down and he'd do it, especially on Sunday. And Sunday he didn't mind doing it because he was, everybody coming out Sunday. But every once in a great while though, on a weekend, after he retired on weekends or something, weekdays, something like that, he'd break one out. He'd call my mom and say, "Hey, tell Ray if he wants to come riding, this next couple of days," and I'd be up there riding with him. I love riding. He always got some good horses, real good horses. So yeah, it was always fun. Watching one of your good friends get clotheslined from a limb because he didn't look at where they were going while we were riding. That's always a hell of a lot of fun, especially when you direct them right into it and they didn't see it coming. Had one of my friends, brought him up there to the hill, and my grandpa says, "He knows how to ride." I said, "Yes, he does. He knew how to ride." I won't say his name because he won't embarrass him too much, but yeah, he knew how to ride, and he showed my grandpa he knew how to ride, and grandpa's like, "All right, cool, you know how to ride. It's all right, you boys got there and out to the field and ride around." I went out too. And he had got 10, 15 acres. You can right there and run around a little bit. And if you open up the back gate, you had another 25, 30 acres. And we opened the back gate and we closed behind us. We go out there and have 25, 30 acres around there. Well, Judge Hubbard's land, we go around there and right around in there. Well, old boy I brought out there, he was talking some smack. He thought, city kids were just all that in a bag of chips. And, of course, I pretty much had, enough of that shit. And as he was sitting there talking smack, I kept directing him towards the trees and through the trees and stuff like that, and he wasn't paying attention, and I was like, "Okay, cool, this fool ain't paying attention." So I guided him right up there next to this old oak tree that had one long limb come out there, and I looked at it and I looked at him and said, "Okay, this will hit him about chest high. He's perfect. I get the horses up to a slow trot. He won't notice it. Let the horse will go. Bang, not a problem. Won't hurt him too much. Yeah, no big deal, right? We're not near the water with rocks or anything around there. We're just out there and playing out there in the open. So I got him to go in a little trot, and he decides he's going to pick up the speed a little bit. I was like, "Well, okay, sure, we'll pick up the speed." He goes, "Come on, let's go a little trot. Let's try a little harder." I said, "Okay, she'll trot faster." And the mare he was on, she'll try a little faster. She tried a little faster, and we got it going pretty good, and we're going a good pace. And I was talking smack. I was a little bit ahead of him, and he was like, so I started to come back a little bit, and, come even with him, and started distracting him, and so I kind of, we got about 15, 20 feet from that limb. We're going a pretty good pace. I told the horse I was on, this old stallion I was on, I got him to slow down a little bit. I got to slow down a little bit, and by that time, he looked around, he goes, "Hey, where you at?" And he looked back at me, he goes, "Hey, where you at?" And just about the time he turned around, oh, he hit that freaking limb. Now, he hit the limb a little bit harder than I thought he was going to the first one. I had judged it out, yeah, he's going to hit that limb, no problem. It knocked him clean off the saddle. Out of the saddle, he goes off the mare, he goes flying through. He cleared the mare by a couple of feet. And I was impressed. It looked like coming right out of a movie. He shot out of the saddle. He got shot out of that saddle. Well, he fell, no big deal. The fall didn't hurt none. What he fell into is I was dying. He fell into a fresh stack of cow pie. And I mean fresh, it was no older than at least 4 hours, 5 hours old. So, old boy hit a fresh load of cow shit all over his ass and his back. Oops. Damn, sucks when that happens. And At first, I didn't see it. I didn't time it that way. I didn't plan it that way. But when he hit it, I saw the cow shit come around the side, and I was dying. I almost fell off my horse laughing that hard, and it was funnier than hell. He got up. He's like, "Smells like shit." Dumbass. Yeah, that smells like shit. You're in it. I was like, well, yeah, you got it all up the crack of your ass and your back too. He goes, oh man, I saw. He had a, we tried we walked the horses all the way back. Of course, that was the end of the ride. After that, I knew that was going to be the end of the ride. So after that, we trotted back to the house and he got up there and I got to the house and I told him, I said, you going up to the house and go see my mom, let her know, and don't go in the house though. Don't go in the house. Just call out for my mom and tell her what happened, and she'll hook you right up. He goes, all right, we'll do. He was embarrassed as hell, and all get out. I'm sitting there, I got the horses tied up and getting ready to take the saddle off them, let them cool off a little bit. I think I got the saddle off the mare by that time. My uncle came out and he goes, what the fuck did you do? I'm like, what? The horses or something? He goes, no. Your buddy there. What'd you do to him? I said, oh, him. He talks shit. Now he got to fall in. And then he fell into it. He goes, yeah, okay. What did you do? I said, well, you know, a little oak tree about a quarter mile from the pond. He goes, yeah. One with a limb that goes out like this? He goes, yeah. I kept nodding my head, and he's like, oh, you did that. Mm-hmm. So what's he bitching about his back hurting? I said, well, he got a little trotting a little too faster than I thought he was going to go. And when he hit that limb, he kind of jetted off the back pretty quick. It's a little faster than I thought. And he hit the ground pretty hard. And so when he hit that fresh cow pie, shit flied everywhere. Literally, shit was flying everywhere. Uncle John was like, boy, I can't take you anywhere. I can't tell you anything. I can't teach you nothing. I was like, what? I said, some bitch running his mouth. I got to teach him a lesson, just like you taught me a lesson every time. He goes, well, yeah, that's your family. That's something else. I said, too late now. You should have told me before. Oops, sorry. He was like, fucker. He's just shaking his head and laughing. My grandpa stood there looking, and he's like, what the hell's going on? And of course, because everybody's out there on the lawn, you got the picnic tables. My Uncle Pat made like 2 or 3 picnic tables for my grandpa, and they always had picnic tables up there, and the chairs are out there, and everybody's having tea and all this, and old boy's walking up there, he got shit all over him, and he goes up and talks to my mom. My mom's takes him to the shed, goes up there, grabs some stuff from under my grandpa's closet, some old clothes out of grandpa's closet, changes him out, gets him, puts all the stuff in a bag. I'm sitting, like I said, I'm taking the saddle off the horses and letting them breathe, and letting them cool off. And finally, my mom came out there. She's shaking her head, and I'm like, oh, I thought for sure I was gonna get my ass chewed. I was like, oh God, here comes the Grim Reaper, and I thought for sure as hell I'm gonna get my ass chewed. Said, oh my God, here it comes. I'm gonna die. She's like, was it worth it? I'm like, yeah. She's all right. Just thought I'd ask. She turned around and walked away. She's like, she stopped. She walked off about 10 feet. She turned around, looked at me. She goes, I knew as soon as he walked up here what happened, where it happened, and why it happened. She goes, I just want to know, was it worth it? Am I grounded? Goes, no. Okay. That's between you and him. I ain't got nothing to do with it. Yes, ma'am. Thanks. She goes, yep. I wouldn't try that with your uncles. No. They're the ones that taught me. She broke her. What? I said, never mind. Nothing. So I got the horses all done. I come up there and took the bridles off of them. Grandpa's looking at me like, got them all bed in there? I said, yeah, I got them all in there, Grandpa. They're all good to go. He's all right. He pulls up a chair, and the man has hardly ever done this. He's done like maybe 3 times in his whole life when he was alive. He pulled up a chair, popped it down next to him, and says, come on in and have a seat next to me. Grab yourself a glass of tea, come on in and sit down next to me. Okay. And whoever was in around earshot of that went from talking to went. So Grandpa sits me down there next to him. He says, "So, you want to tell me what's going on there?" I'm sitting there looking, and I'm like, "Sure. What you want to know?" He says, "How come your buddy come up here all covered with cow shit?" "Oh, you want to know about that?" He goes, "Yeah, of course I know about that." I said, "Well, he had a misfortunate accident with the limb over there by the oak tree." He goes, "A misfortunate accident with the oak tree limb." I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "And what kind of accident was that?" I said, "He hit it at a high rate of speed, and the horse kept going, and he stopped." About that time, my uncles about spit their tea out of their mouth. My grandpa down here inhaled his. And he says, "So, that why he came up there smelling like cow shit?" I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "You want to tell me how that happened?" "Sure, if you want to tell me. You want me to tell you?" I'm all ears. I said, "Well, I got tired of his mouth, to be quite honest with you, Grandpa. So I got the horse into a trot, slow trot. He decided to get him up to a higher trot. And when he did that, I got him toward the old oak tree. I just got him all disoriented. By the time he figured out where he was at, he was on his ass deep in cow shit. And about that time, my grandfather just starts laughing his ass off. I snorted his snuff in his mouth. And he was just kind of just shook his head, and he goes, "All right, boy, I just need to know what was going on with my horses." I said, "They're all in the stalls. They're fed. And they're cooling off now. They're all good to go." He goes, "All right, see, my horses are all right. Your horses are just fine, Grandpa." "Okay, good." So, yeah, needless to say, my buddies don't come out to the hill anymore when I go, "You want to go horse riding?" So apparently the word got out quick when I was in school. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. Y'all have a blessed day. Remember, behave yourselves. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Choose your next out.